Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Firebolt.
It's Artificer, Sorcerer, Wizard, Cantrip, evocation. It's like the damaging option for every single first level wizard, every single pre-gen that you've ever seen in your life. It is verbal somatic components. You hurl a mote of fire at a creature or object within range being 120 feet, which is a very long range. Make a ranged spell attack against the target. On hit, the target takes 1d10 fire damage. A flammable object hit by the spell ignites if it is not being worn or carried. Spell's damage increases by a d10 at 5th, 3rd, 11th, and 17th level to 2, 3, and 4 d10 respectively. Yep. It's a d10 fire damage. Sure.
That's good enough for me. It's a cantrip. I mean, it's a damage cantrip. It's got a super long range.
Yep.
I even, you know what? You probably don't like this, but I like the wide variance of damage options, range. You know, the 1d10. It could suck. It could do nothing, or if it misses, it could suck, or it could be, for a cantrip, pretty cool. Like 10 damage is all right.
I think a big problem that I have with cantrips is their floor is so low. So if I'm looking at like a character with a weapon proficiency, let's say simple weapon proficiency, let's use a d6 weapon, like clubs to do d4s, but there's a d6 simple weapon, like spears. Adding a d6 plus your modifier at a +2 or +3 means your floor is 1 plus whatever the modifier is, and your ceiling is the max number plus whatever the modifier is. So if you compare it to a d10, and we look at a d6 +3 spear, it's a 4 is the lowest result you can get on a spear, and 9 is the highest result you can get on a spear. Firebolt can do 1 more damage a 10th of the time, and then 3 or 30% more of the time will hit under that at 3, 2, or 1. So the variance there feels pretty bad as far as whenever you hit with a firebolt compared to a regular weapon, your odds of doing very small amounts of damage is substantially higher. And I tend to care about damage floors a lot because whenever I'm running early tier encounters with low HP creatures, damage floors will determine if something will be outright killed or not in a lot of instances. It also will sometimes determine if you need 3 or more rounds to kill something. If something's got 8 hit points, it might take 3 or more firebolts to drop it. It will never take more than 2 weapon attacks to drop it. And that, I think, is a pretty meaningful difference in these kinds of effects and why I'm never going to be really high on cantrips. The floor is just too debilitating.
Yes, but they're cantrips. This is not something you're relying on. This is something to have in your back pocket when you run out of real spells, or I don't know, maybe you're too far away for weapon attacks, or you don't feel like getting up off the sofa or whatever.
For sure.
You've got Firebolt.
It'll definitely feel and perform that duty well in the early tiers, right? I think whenever you're in level 1, 2, 3, and you've got 2 to 4 spell slots to your name, this is going to feel the most usable as far as I'm going to try and juggle and balance out my resources. I don't have a huge amount of consistency with this, but I really do need a lot of damage here. I'm not likely to hit with my quarterstaff. All right, Firebolt, fire away. At that purpose, sure, it's fine. I don't have any particularly large beef with it. Firebolt just sort of is the best version of single target instance range damage cantrip, right? Like, this competes better than Poison Spray, it competes better than Acid Splash, it competes better than Ray of Frost. I like this more than most of even like the utility option stuff. I will tend to prefer this. That, not more so than like Mind Sliver or Frostbite, but against like most of the other damaging cantrips, I think Firebolt is near the top of that list, especially like if you plan on carrying about concentration level 1s through 3, it's better than Create Bonfire. If you don't, Create Bonfire, I definitely take over this every time because it has persistent damage and does more things and stuff. I think it's a lot cooler of a spell. That being said, like, if you want a character that goes, I am playing a wizard for the first time, how do I wizard? This is a perfectly reasonable place to start. If you're playing a sorcerer, same kind of deal. It's like, yep, this is a thing that I take to do damage. Artificers I have a little bit more of a trouble with because their weapon proficiency is better and they tend to care about combat more, so they tend to care about using dexterity and strength to their advantages, so I'm not as keen on either of those. On Artificer, that is. But, a d10 damage still isn't the end of the world on any of these characters, and while the floor is a really big bummer, the ceiling isn't that great either. It's still like when you roll 10s, you'll feel like, wow, that hit like a bus, and I feel like a badass, and that's super cool. And that's, there's something to be said for that.
Also, I don't know how much weight you put into this, but it can target creatures or objects, and if you target objects, you can light them on fire if they're flammable. That's there's utility potential there. If you're in a bind and you need to start a campfire real quick, there's the other spells like produce flame or something. But this, you just got a pile of wood, boom, now it's on fire.
Sure. It's also, there's a genuine utility to this to be able to be 100 feet out at a concert with big fancy curtains, right? And there's some horrible, like, let's say you're at a fantasy medieval concert, like a Shakespearean play, and you need everyone to get out of here because there's going to be, a horrible circle of death cast on the area. Lighting the curtains on fire is a way to get everyone alerted and freaking out, and that's a way to start getting people to panic and do things, right? There is genuine utility in lighting something on fire at a great distance. This does that. If you're ever, I think that is a giant major selling point that I don't necessarily give the spell enough credit for, is the flexibility utility that you bring on. That can matter. There are plenty of times where lighting something on fire at a large distance is good.
Alternatively, you could pull out your blanket with continual flame on it.
You could, and it won't light anything on fire because continual flame doesn't do that, right? Isn't
No,
harmless?
it looks like a fire though. That could get people scared.
Sure. I don't think it's making people more scared than that the building were actually on fire. Then again, maybe you don't want to burn the building down.
We're not talking about continual flame again.
Sure.
Right. That's my fault.
Listen, I can't ever get thrilled about Firebolt, but it is fine. And if you like the Firebolt, I get it. I don't. I'm going to try to prioritize a +2 dex mod because I'd much rather have a floor of a 3 and a ceiling of an 8 on my attack rolls. And I can live with getting -1 to hit for that reason.
If it's as long as it's a cantrip, I'm willing to take that gamble for the potential higher damage. And like I said, range, utility, it's got a lot going for it. I like Firebolt.
Sure. I think it's a solid 3 out of 5. I think it's entirely reasonable cantrip. The only solid, only damaging basic cantrip I'd ever recommend, compared to all of its cousins. I take Poison Spray on a lot more characters, but because I'm a glutton for punishment. So I like D12s. I like harder to use spells. It is way worse than Firebolt. That's just my personal preferences. I think if you're an average wizard, this is a perfectly average cantrip.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4. I can't think of any reason not to. It's good. It does a job. It's a cantrip. You can blast it again and again, like Tim the Enchanter.
Sure. It does. It definitely doesn't explode like it exploded that rabbit, but it does, little spark.
Holy hand grenade exploded the rabbit. Tim the Enchanter, upon introduction, was just blasting rocks purposelessly, and that's Firebolt.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Thank you, Sam, and I'm happy you saw that movie.
Okay,
thank you,
I've seen Holy Grail.
Yes, okay.
It's a nerd rite of passage.
All right, let us know what you think down in the comments, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.